What's up, everybody, and welcome to TSO Daily. I am your host, Mr. Craven. All right, guys. So, I've been doing testing since I've started this game. I'm an old school MMOer, so I like to figure things out for myself. And always the big controversy is which traits are better for which builds, and so on and so forth. And people get hemmed up. And months ago, when weapon traits had switched, everybody was claiming to use Sharpen. Everybody. I was one of those people that spoke out against it. It was like, that is not the case, I assure you. I've been challenged over and over again about this subject. But today, I really wanted to go ahead and just kind of show you guys, is there such a thing called as too much penetration? And can Nirnhone, with that being said, outperform Sharpen? Okay, so it just becomes the question. I'm not going to go through all end rotations, but I definitely want to show you guys what's up, what we can do, and everything else. And disclaimer, my Sharpen sword isn't gold. I don't gold out anything. My Nirnhone is. There will be a slight difference. Nothing radical, though. But it's a 1% difference or something like that. But I'm going to be testing this, and we're going to show you guys what's up. Okay, so currently I have a sharpened sword of Juliana's on, right? So there's only one. And the big deal for me here is because I'm using my Scathing Mage set. Now, ideally, I usually do like one extra piece of Sharpen on my sword. This is typically true, but unfortunately, it's charged because I don't currently have that sword trait. But this is Sharpen. Okay, so I do have a sword of Juliana's in Sharpen. All right, so this is the big deal for me here, guys. I'm just basically going to show you guys with and without the Reaper's Mark, right? So Reaper's Mark will give me a spell major breach, reducing my target's spell resistance by an additional 5,280, right? Now, keep in mind, I'm just going to be spamming between Degeneration and Funnel Health because I want to get the Empower buff from the Might of the Guild, and I want to proc up the Funnel Health to a consistent amount of damage, keeping in mind Scathing Mage will proc. So I'm trying to find that out, and we're going to show you the difference with and without the Major Breach on both swords, both traits. So I'm going to show this to you guys. All right, and so everybody kind of gets this. The sets I'm going to be running, of course, is the Juliana's and the Scathing Mage set. All right, and I got Kina, but I won't be proccing Kina. All right, so here's the deal, guys. So with the Sharpen, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to hit with my builder and then spam. And I want to get crits up. Okay, that's about 1520. I think I can get a little higher here, obviously. Because 1315. Did my food buff drop off? No. 152. So about 152, we're looking at 15200. There's a 165. That's so 165 high. 15.2 low. Okay, and that's 6.6, 16.5, 6.6. All right. Now I'm just gonna wait till my dots end, and it'll just spit out numbers for like DPS. I'm not, like I said, not going through a full end rotation. All right, once that's in, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch out now to my Nirnhone. All right. Fifteen, 2, 4, 5. 16.53. So we got a little bit of drop on the Nirnhone on the higher end crit val. Not by much, but still noticeable. Okay. Wait for it to end. Now on the PC I can use the metrics. It's a lot more convenient. But I kind of like doing it this way in a lot of ways. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to switch back to the Sharpen. And I'm going to use my mark target. Right? Alright. So now I'm going to mark the target. And I'm doing 1744. $16,566. Oh, that was because that dropped. Let's get that back up there. 18.5 high. 18.57 high. 18.57. Come on. Going back. We're going to switch out again. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark the target. $18,600 high. So I drop the target. I'll go ahead and reapply because we're simulating the pierce is what we're doing. $18,600 high. Okay, so the Nirnhone outperforms the Sharpen, right? With the mark on. Without the mark, the Sharpen does better, right? Why is this occurring? The reason being because we're overextending our penetrating value, right? Once you hit 100% penetration, your damage cannot exceed the difference. It's very, very important to understand that, guys. That's a very important aspect to know. And you'll ask yourself, well, how are you, exceeding the difference? Well, that becomes a part of our passive and our CP point placement. When we take a look at the light armor passive, guys, we're going to get concentration. This is going to give us spell penetration of 4,884. So we're getting a penetrating value through light armor passive. Also keep in mind that we also use our CP points to make up that difference. So we can go ahead, put into the CP points the different values to capitalize on the other trait. So when I come over here into spell erosion, I have the 4,257 for the penetration. So this makes Nirnhone a lot more viable for a weapon trait. Now, if I didn't put into my spell erosion, Sharpen would outperform the Nirnhone, and this is true. But if I put the difference into my spell erosion, Nirnhone basically is acting like a base for elemental expert or such. It's giving me a base value of 11% flat. So those points aren't allocated, and even if I readjust some of this, I can go ahead and get those numbers, which we know as indifferent curves. And this is why I'm always telling people there is no such thing as a best in slot, because what we're missing in our gear, we can make up the indifferent values through the CP system. So this is why you see the Nirnhone outperforming the Sharpen when the breach is applied. So when breach is applied, we're at 100% penetration. Now we can actually go ahead and readjust those values to kind of underline it, and this way if minor breach is applied, we can even capitalize further. But this is a very important thing, even if you don't have a metric system, because a lot of no console players has metrics. Somebody asked me like a couple of days ago, what's your parse on a skeleton, on skeleton? And I'm like, I never rely on a parse from a skeleton. It's not a parser. It's a generalized idea of what I'm dealing with, no mechanics. That's basically, I use it for practicing my rotation and testing my base value of my damage modifier. Then I can make the adjustments in my CP system. But when I'm on the PC, I rely more on my metrics to give me an accurate point of how much damage I'm dealing for that boss, because each boss is going to be also slightly different. So we're going to also get a different parse based on those encounters. So this is why I never rely on target dummies. I've been doing this for 20 years. I was a raid leader in a lot of MMOs, and the first thing we always told anybody, no matter what you're parsing on a target dummy, scrap it. It don't mean shit. It doesn't mean shit. You usually lose between 15 to 20% of your damage output from the target dummy from what you're going into a dungeon. It's true, it helps with mechanics. It gives you an idea. It lets you practice your rotation more consistently and get that down. And that's why I do like the target dummies. So I do like the target skeletons because it does help players and help myself practice rotation. Give you that general idea of what's performing better for your uptime. But other than that, I don't parse off target skeletons. But it's very important to still use this as a primary tool if you're on console, as far as getting a base damage. Basically, it's the same thing. If I go ahead and I just hit funnel health, I'm dealing 6-9. That's my base without crit. Now let's get crit. That's 12-2-8-2 without any buff or builder applied. When I apply my builder and hit, my value goes up because I'm getting that empowered buff. So the difference becomes noticeable, right? Because when I go down here into the Mage Guild and I look at Might of the Guild, casting a Mage Guild ability grants you Empower, increasing the damage of your next direct damage ability by 20% per 5 seconds. So that's why that's applied. Alright, so this is what, getting those base values from a target dummy can be really a good thing. So I think target skeletons are great, but once again, guys, you can have too much penetration. We can estimate this. It's 4,884. And with my CP system, we're looking at, I've put additional 4,257. So right there is 8,000 apply, a little over 8,000 applied, right? Adding the marked target is going to give me an additional 5,280 towards my penetration, right? So we're looking at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13,000, right? That's 13K. And this is on a robust, and my Nirnhone's outperforming my Sharpen. So that's why I always tell people, good base value is to stay around about 11. Anticipate around 11K. And then for your vet hard modes and your trials and stuff, when the major fractures applied in the major fracture, major breach, minor fracture, minor breach, those will adjust your DPS accordingly. So, yeah, it's just, even if I upgrade the Sharpen, it's going to give me a few points extra. But the 11% for the Nirnhone is it's outperforming Sharpen at this point because I'm exceeding the difference. Just the way it is. So I hope this test kind of, like I said, if you don't have, like, for example, let's say your CP low and you can't put that much into spell erosion. If you can't put that much into spell erosion, I would tell you to go ahead and use the Sharpen versus Nirnhone. But obviously, if you can put the difference into your spell erosion, make up and calculate those differences, this is when Nirnhone's going to outperform your Sharpen. And this is only going to apply to crafted sets. So if you're going to be using drop sets, I would say, depending on what you're going to do, you might be better off with the Sharpen and then downgrade your erosion. So if I was using like Moon Dancers and Scathing Maids, I'd probably go with the Sharpen weapons versus any other trait, and then of course go into my CP system and then readjust my penetrating value down to increase my damage modifier. So this is what I would suggest. But if you're going to be running a crafted set and you have a crafted set as a secondary, and then you're going to go ahead and amp up your damage through your erosion, this is when you want to go ahead and craft a Nirnhone. So a lot of people have a lot of questions, and especially about precise. Precise can also have the same effect. So if your crit value is low, mine's good. My spell crit now is at 71. That's even a little high. I was just fucking off. I just wanted to do this to get the crit value up there a little bit more. But I usually keep around 55, and I'll taper this down, and I'll use the shadow. So once I'm at over 55 point something, around between 55 and 60, I'll use just Shadow Mundus. But I really wanted to keep trying to hit more frequent crits. This way I could show you guys, high-end value. But the base damage would still apply. So, for me, once you hit under 55, you want to go ahead and use Precise, right? You want to amp up your crit chance. And this is another reason when you would take your CP points and you would go into spell erosion. Now, the problem with stamina users, and this becomes the issue, is because months ago, once again, they added weapon damage to Nirnhone. At one time, Nirnhone was only spell damage. And they changed that. But the problem that Stam characters have are their passives are different. So when we go ahead and take a look, they get weapon damage. We don't get spell damage. So their base is already applied in their passive. So they need Sharpen way more than Magicka users, because they don't have the penetrating value. Now, it's true that you can go ahead once again in the CP and put into piercing. This would give you a penetrating value, but once again, you want to try to keep between that 11 and about around that 11 and 13, roughly. On low end, I say around 11. And then depending on your gear, so if you're using a set like Two Fang Stake, which scales penetration, that might be good. Also, same thing with Night Mothers. If you're going to use Night Mothers, you're going to get a penetrating value, so you can make those adjustments accordingly. So if you get a penetrating value, let's say you use Two Fang Snake and you're not running a trial set and you want to go with a crafted, this is when Nirnhone might be beneficial to you. Once again, it may not, because you've got to calculate those differences. So yes, there can be such a thing as too much penetration. Why? Because the damage cannot exceed the difference. And yes, Nirnhone can outperform Sharpen, same thing with piercing, but in what it all depends on your gear, what gear you're wearing. If I'm wearing Two Fang, I might need a little bit more penetration, I might not. So basically, if I'm running Two Fang Snake and I'm running Sharpen, I don't need Krogs. Why? Because I'm going to go ahead and take Valodras or something with a little bit more damage, or with weapon damage, to increase my base value. So this is when we see the increased damage. All right. So if you have any questions or comments, please post below. I want to thank everybody for watching. Once again and always, thank you and have a nice day.